All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, DJ.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
That's better. Come on. The weather's changed. It's a little nicer outside. We don't need to be sluggish because of the heat, so let's liven it up a little bit. Up here, I need Sally Taylor, who's on the beach. Dang, she missed an opportunity. Amanda Braden, come on up. You're going to spin. Matt Ramser, come on up. Maureen Sellers, Farrah Dillon, Dana Ashley, Jack Tanini, and Terry Jordan. Come on up if I called your name. Okay. 7% listings by these people. How about a hand for their 7% listings?
You lost some of your money just in the corner.
Daggone it. I hate it when my money falls apart. Let's see. There are 50 agents in the room. There are 5 agents up here. That's 10% of us got 7% listings. Can we do better? Yeah, let's do better. Okay, Amanda. Amanda, you get to spin twice. Quit trying to cut in line. What is that, 5? All right, $5. And $5. Hey, better than a sharp stick in the eye. Okay, Maureen, let's go. What do you got, Maureen? 1? Tony's got your money. Did you short me? Did you short me on the spin the first time?
I didn't realize I did.
Oh, okay.
I didn't do it on purpose.
There you go. Okay, that's right. Come on, Terry. Yeah, that's the way to spin it. All right. Do you not want it? Okay, I thought you did. Go, Jack.
Big money, big money.
$10. All right. Thank you, Jack. Go, Matt. $10. Matt, are you on here twice? 1. Yes, you are. Yes. I'm not going to give you the money yet. Spin again. Apparently not. 10 more. All right. There you go.
Matt, is that your second and third listing since you've been with us? First and second?
Third and fourth. Getting them at 7.
Yeah.
That's the way. How about a hand for Matt? Go, Dana. $20.
Thank you.
Woo! I was running close. All right. What was that? 4 milkshakes. Yeah, okay. All right, at this time I'd like to introduce Interlink, our newest mortgage partner, and Chris Squires. No, Chris. The money comes the other way in this relationship.
Thanks so much for having us here. Great opportunity that we've been given to become one of your community choice lenders, and I see a lot of familiar faces. We've done a lot of business with you guys already, and we're looking to build on that and kind of grow. My name is Chris Squires. I'm the branch manager of the Louisville office, which is in Middletown, and then Ken Ahrens, he's the branch manager of the Indiana office here. It's over on Spring Street, New Albany. And then the lovely Holly Philpott, who's our marketing director, which can become your best friend in this business. So we thank you for the opportunity, and anything we can do, we'll be here throughout the meeting. So afterwards, if you want to chat, we'd love to chat.
Thank you. Thanks. And they sponsored your breakfast this morning, so you might thank them for that as well. Yeah. All right, a couple of upcoming things. How many of you are going to be able to attend the picnic? now that I'm about ready to hound you about it, how many will adjust your schedules so you can come to the picnic? Come on. We have a good time at the picnic. We want you to bring your family, grandkids if you've got them, kids if you want to, bonfire, balloons, pitch in. We provide the meat. All we're asking you to bring is a vegetable or a dessert. More vegetables than dessert. More vegetables than dessert. Okay? So make every effort you can to get there. All right. Tammy has 2 or 3 announcements to give you real quickly.
So DJ's talking about the picnic. Sign up sheet. If you're coming, please put down one of those vegetables that DJ's talking about. Is Lauren Bauer here? Oh,
No.
okay. Well, I want to take a moment just to give her kudos because, as you know, she put together a yard sale and she had a couple of vendors here. And because of her due diligence, because of her strong belief, she was able to raise $500 for the MDA. Everybody clap. That's what it's all about. I've got my MDA jar back there. We've raised about $2,600. Of course, our company goal, our office goal is $3,000. Mine is $5,000 because I think we have enough people that can help us on the MDA drive. So keep that in mind. We have between now and the middle of December. Property rights. How many of you read your property rights? So then you know that on property rights, they're asking for volunteers for committees. They're asking for board of director nominations. They're asking for realtor of the year. They're asking for any number of things. The applications are online. Please take a moment to look at those. And if you have someone that you think is worthy of any of the recognitions, or if you have time to give, we didn't have very many people this past year. We're the largest company in Southern Indiana. I'm not for sure why. So let's see if we can get a few more people to participate in the board because our vote should count just as much as everyone else's. Also, a little piece of tidbit that I found, if you look at the property rights, they had statistics, Indiana housing market statistics, and this shows, of course, across the state, but the neat thing about it is it shows the growth this past year. So when you're talking to your sellers, when you're talking to your buyers, it talks about average sales price, the percentage that it has increased the average sales price, and also number of listings. So keep that in mind. You can use those statistics and information to your benefit when you're out there getting listings. I think that's it. Oh, just remember, October 24th for the picnic, okay?
Very good. Any questions for Tammy? Those statistics are really good if you'll look at them. And you can archive those to your computer so you can keep them on there. They're downloadable. So do that, refer back to them, and it is really good to have in your listing presentation. So before I let Tammy sit down, I wanted to tell you that Tammy and I have worked for 15 years or so. Tammy came to me 15 years ago and said, I want to be a manager. And I said, you don't have the skills to be a manager. What are you talking about? And she has worked diligently to develop those skills, and she served in that capacity for us for quite a while. So I'd like for you to give her a hand for the effort that she put in. So on Friday last, Tammy sent me a note because we couldn't meet and told me that she had a new job that she was going to go to, and she was resigning because she wanted to take the best job that she could ever have. She was going to become a grandmother, and she wanted to not stress over you, her 150 children, perhaps adopted, but she would rather stress when she needed to and take time to enjoy her new grandchildren. She didn't want me to tell you this today, and it was for a very selfish reason for you. And the selfish reason she didn't want me to tell you this today is because right now she's spending time with about 30 of you talking about goals for next year. And she didn't want you to lose focus of how important those goals were. And she didn't want to tell you until December. But I wanted you to know now, but I don't want you to diminish that effort that you're putting in with her. Whatever you and Tammy talk about with goals, Tammy and I will talk about, and we'll continue working on those throughout the year, or her replacement will pick those up, because that's one of the more important things that I think we do for those of you who want to take advantage of it. And that's to keep your careers on track and to give you ideas throughout the year on how to get better. So, another hand for Tammy. She's going to remain in this position until the end of the year, okay? If we find somebody faster, that's okay. It's just transition time for us. If we don't, then the bad news comes. You kind of stuck with me, and you know I won't do near as good a job as Tammy does as being around for you and really focused for you. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So later on today, I'm telling you this now, we'll begin taking resumes for our New Albany office manager position. Later on today, you know it now. People that come at 6 will know it at 6 this evening, but later on today I'll be sending out an email to all of Cira, so Cira knows it. We're going to be looking for a high energy person that really wants to be focused on this job and help you improve your career, your life balance, and your production. And I'm sure that our search will also go outside the real estate industry. So this is it's a big job. It's a hard job. I mean, you can think of the people in the past that have had this job and how it wears you down. If you're really good about caring about what happens to the agents, it can be stressful and it can be all-consuming. So that's the kind of person that we want, somebody that's really driven. So it will be a fairly extensive search, I'm sure. And we'll let you know how it goes as time goes on. Everybody aware that the new RESPA rules started October the 1st? Has anybody had a closing delayed because of that yet? Raise your hand if you've had a closing that's been delayed for it. How many of you were worried about that when they said it was going to happen? I think we all were, and just like most everything else, the reality might not be as bad as we perceive, so we worried a little unduly about it. But it is a big change. And this is all brought about because of the CPFB. If you don't know what that is, you need to put that in your vocabulary. Didn't I ask you to bring something to take notes? I see a few of you are. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. The CFPB. I had the right letter, just in the wrong. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Now, those of us who follow things, all things governmental, this is just another agency to hate. So I will try to keep my bias out of the conversation. But these people will affect us a lot as time goes on. And one of the things that they are affecting, the ways they're affecting real estate brokerages, is that we are required to collect and keep more information. It's nothing that we haven't asked for before, but it is information that sometimes you gave us on your closing voucher and sometimes you didn't. They want to be able to track our buyers and sellers from our files if they come in and audit some files and see something. So more and more from here on out, we're going to need more names, like both buyers and sellers' first names. Okay, we're going to need phone numbers, and we're going to need email addresses. And if you can get a future address, if you've got a seller that's moving away, that. So I'm going to ask you to really strive to be more comprehensive in how you fill out the buyer and seller information on your closing vouchers. Okay, and there's going to come a time fairly shortly where we'll come back, because IAR really hasn't told us what we have to have and what we might need to have. Okay? And they're kind of taking the lead on this, so we're letting them be our buffer right now. But for now, from today on out, lenders got all this information, so they could go there, but they're not. They want to look at our files. So our files need to be more complete. So start filling those closing vouchers out. And have any of you noticed, not those of you from Corden, but those of you here in the New Albany office, have you noticed how tense Denise has been here lately? Really, really stressed. Well, part of that was because we were so busy back in the spring, but the bigger part of that is we've had to upgrade our software, our back office software, to be able to house all this information. Okay? And she's going through that transition right now. Matter of fact, we turn our software on November the 1st. So bear with Sean and Denise over the next 60 days, because they're training right now, and when it goes live on November the 1st and it's a new technology, guess what? It's not going to work just like we think it is. So they're going to have to iron out the bugs. Okay? So it'll be really pretty stressful in that office for the next 60 days. This is one of the reasons that we've upgraded this software, is because of the CFPB. Okay? Enough said. It's going to be something that I'm going to be stressing more as we go down the road, and something that we're going to have to come back on you and say, hey, can't write a commission check because I don't have this information. So start getting in a habit, okay? Upgrade your service a little bit, and let's make that a little more compliant, because these people, they're no guff. They're serious, and they have the ability to fine us big amounts of money, and we don't want to get fined. Okay? Any questions? Very good. And let's get on to the real topic of our meeting today, and that is the old contract and the new contracts. Yes. How many people here? Since we put the IAR farms out and they took the CIRA farms down, how many people have done a purchase agreement? Okay. How many of you have done 5? Written 5. Not that they were accepted. Anybody done 5 yet? Robin's saying 3. Okay. So as I look, that was about 30%, maybe 40% have at least written a contract. So a lot of us still haven't experienced the differences. How many of you went to the training? I hope this is a much higher percentage. Good. A much higher percentage. So I've not written a single one. So I don't want you to perceive that I'm standing up here as the expert. I am not the expert. Now, that doesn't mean I won't have an opinion, but I am not the expert on the differences here. I want this to be a discussion among you about what you perceive some of the practical differences to be. So, as any of you have read the new contract, what are you confused about?
Closing date. I think those 2 different dates in that closing date.
Okay, so there's a topic, the closing date. That's one thing we'll look at. Keep that in mind. Beth? The title and closing costs. That's a second one. Robin?
This line 113 and line 114, where the seller has to pay the buyer closing the money, and then that's really still kind of.
Okay, so is that the same thing you were talking about? Okay, keep that. That's 3. Tammy, you had your hand up?
In the purchase agreement where it talks about the interest rate, there's an area that people are putting the down payment instead of the actual mortgage amount, the percentage of the mortgage amount.
So find a line and we'll get to that. That's 4.
That's 29.
Line 29, maybe. Okay. Anything else? That's all right. That's all right. We'll find it. Tammy's going to find that. What else? Maureen?
Independent inspections and how many days they've got to either order them or complete them.
Okay, so the inspection time frame. Okay? That's 5. Can we start with those 5? All right, so Tammy, you were first. What was yours again?
It's talking about that closing date. It gives you 2 different times that you can put in there.
Give us a line.
It's line 87
Line 87 and 88.
Okay, I was wrong on 29 also. It is 66 or 7 somewhere in there.
We'll get to that.
All right.
Closing, G, 87, 88. The closing of the sale, the closing date shall be on or before or within so many days after, whichever is later in this agreement, the termination. What's the confusion?
Well, because I've had like 3 transactions and each one of them were different on their phrases. Because I think that if you put one date in there, we should stick with the one date because somebody else put a date on or before like December 5th or within 7 days of clear to close. Well, you know, if you okay with that clear to close, that could be 2 months down the road for clear to close. So I think that it needs to be more concrete on, I like one of them that said 60 days after accepted offer because that is a set date to where I think it's open-ended when they put 7 days after clear to close because we all know clear to close could be 2 to 3 months down the road.
But read line
Okay,
89.
wait a minute. Let's raise your hand if you have a comment now, okay? So Beth has a comment.
If you
Kind
read
of
line-
stand up if you would, Beth.
If
So,
you read line 89 though, it says any closing date earlier than the latest date above must be by mutual written agreement. So
No,
that
that's-
kind of clarifies what
No, it says whichever is later or this agreement shall terminate unless an extension of time is mutually agreed to in writing. So they're saying the later date is gonna be, so if you have and or.
No, you're meant to keep reading. Any closing date earlier
Earlier,
than
that's
the latest
where-
date above must be by mutual agreement. So they're basically saying if one happens sooner, then you can agree to close sooner. Like if it.
I know, but it doesn't say the later though. It
She's
doesn't
worried
give
about
you
the
a
later.
time frame
She's
on
worried about
when
2
it
months from-
exactly.
from now.
It's like how long
Let-
do you let it drag on?
Yeah, because if it says within a certain time of clear to close, that could be, you know, the DSDA could be, 3 months down the road. Clear to close, you need something.
And I just had that instance because we had a closing date.
everybody needs to talk louder because we've got a big room.
We had a closing date set, and it was something like, I don't know, September 20th or something like that. Well, the clear to close finally happened, October the 9th. So in that case, if they would have written it like that, or clear to close, the seller's thinking it's gonna close September 20th, the bank gives us clear to close October 10th, and they would have been stuck if we would have had this purchase agreement to wait until that late date. Now, that other sentence says they can close earlier by mutual agreement. But what you're talking about is later. This could go, what if clear to close was November 1st?
Exactly. It doesn't give an end to it.
Right.
Okay.
You don't have to.
Wait a minute. Patty had her hand up first.
I just, from a seller standpoint, that second line you can fill in is a great big huge what if. But it is security for the buyer, so it kind of depends on who you represent.
Okay. I heard somebody else that was talking about it. I don't know who it was. Was you, Tammy? Oh,
No, but I have a comment.
okay, let's get Jack first.
That situation too also confuses the possession date because you don't know when the person is actually, when you put a possession date in there, then that also throws that off. And so it's confusing between when does the buyer actually get possession? If your possession date is
Okay.
to the closing date.
Tammy?
So something that I've seen a couple people do is they would put a date or days, and then on the other line they put not applicable. Because down below it, it says 7-day lender delay, which is what we're used to, which would kind of cover that, but then knowing that if you're gonna go past that 7 days, then you would need an extension, and you could address it at that point.
Cindy?
That answered that. I was gonna ask, do you have to fill both out?
Okay. Any other comments?
If you don't like what they write, counter it.
Okay. So what would you say, whether you're represented by or a seller, because I do think that one's beneficial to one's a little more beneficial to the other because of the flexibility. But what do you think our best practice should be? If we're writing an offer using this new purchase agreement, how would you do it to make it as clear as possible? This clause.
But one day,
Not
Just one day.
exceed a certain date.
Patty?
Well, I might counter it if I represented the seller and put in the conditions that, if they've asked for a quick possession, I might clarify in the counteroffer stating that once the clear to close has been issued and a closing date established, possession should be within this many days after closing, or only get keys at closing if we get that clear to close and firm closing date within 7 days prior to closing. In other words, they need a week's notice. So I might counter that particular issue.
Okay. Anything else? Let me ask you, no other comments right now? Let me ask this. For our best practices as a company, would it help if we had in our minds that where it says on line 87, if we interpret the word or at the end of that to mean that we are either going to fill out the blank in front of the or the blank behind the or? Does that help it clarify in any circumstance? So I'm either going to put in a date certain to be on before a date, or I'm going to leave that blank or draw a line through it or whatever, and I'm going to fill out the other part, or within X days after, blah, 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 blah. Think about that for just a second. If you did either or, and we thought, hey, this is a good way to clarify so that there's less confusion, the second one still might not be a date certain, okay, but it is a time frame certain after we get the clear to close. Okay, just think about that one, because I think that might help clarify. And if you look back at the old purchase agreement, and you don't need to do this, but it only gives us the one choice, the date certain. Okay, so if that's what you're used to, and you filled that part out and just put not applicable or a line through the second one, it's no different than our old purchase agreement. Okay, you do have that other option, because as a buyer's agent, you might find the second option beneficial. But I wouldn't fill out both of them, because then I think you come down to date further down the line and everybody's confused and an attorney's involved. Okay, Dana?
I was just talking with Tracy, who has a lot of experience with these forms. Back to your point, if you left the first one blank and you put or, in order to protect the seller, maybe you could put, as Patty mentioned, maybe closing within 7 days of the clear to close, not to exceed such date, and then you protect your seller, and then the seller can decide, well, do I really want to hold this buyer anymore?
Right. So I think from our discussion, I would say, the thing that you need to take away is, if both of those lines are filled out, you have a date certain and a time frame, there's a chance that they're going to be different, and that lacks clarity. So if you have someone writing you an offer like that, you might need to counter. Even though it's a small thing to counter. You might need to counter to clarify what your person wants to do, what gives them the best position. Okay? Now it might work out, but you might want to. Linda?
So as a standard practice, what are you recommending? I've heard 45 days out from the time you write it. I've heard 60. Tracy, who again has a lot of experience, thinks 60 might be a bit long. What do you think we should do as a standard practice from the time we write it?
I would have said right now, with the CFPB's new rules and people adjusting to them, I think 60 days for right now might be reasonable and keep you in a contract as the outside limit. Now, we might find out in the next 30 days that we really were in a tither about something that really wasn't reality, and we might be able to go back to our 35 days or whatever you're putting in before. But for the next few weeks, I would make it a little longer time frame. And I think this contract should have no bearing on that. I don't, and I'm not a practitioner anymore, but I don't think this contract is going to change that date. Okay? I think The mortgage process is what changes that date, what determines that date. And right now, since there is some uncertainty in the mortgage, how long it's going to take that mortgage processing, that maybe we want to expand that a little bit. But I would be fairly quick to contract it if we see that it's too long. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I talked to a lender.
Wow.
I talked to a lender last night. I'm gonna write an offer tonight, and she told me to put 60 days.
Yeah.
So,
Okay? And we've done that before. I mean, we've told you before to stretch it out because remember when they were so busy and we were starting to gear back up in like 2010, 11, and they couldn't get them all processed because they were understaffed? Okay? We spread it out and then we shrunk it back. So that's not unusual. Patty?
Does it matter what kind of loan though, again, if it's a
Sure it does.
still loan,
Yeah, sure it does.
still 60?
You
still talk to your lender.
I'm just saying, lengthen them out more than normal for the short term, regardless of what. They all won't be 60. Some might be 90. Some might be 40. 40 is still longer than what we used to have.
Speaking to a lender, they actually said what was taking 4 to 6 weeks is taking about 6 to 8 weeks. So about 2 more weeks on top of what your regular loan would normally be.
2 more weeks on top of what it would normally be for a while.
Yeah.
Rules of thumb, and they're going to adjust. Enough said? Little.
I wanted to say that I put 54 days, and then you got your 7-day extension, because it freaked out my buyer 60 days.
Whatever.
It sounded better to her, and then with the 7 extension, you've got 60.
Yep, that's fine. I don't care. 66 kind of freaks me out, so don't put 66 in there. Okay? Yeah. Beth, I think you had the second topic. What was your line?
Line number is, it's section P, the whole section.
Give us a line number to start P.
238, page 4.
238, page 4, title approval.
I mean, I know you want to do a title insurance commitment, on what you would want to check that, but trying to decide who should pay owners and who should pay lenders. I know in certain parts of the state, the seller pays all the title costs, but that's not our normal around here. So how do you split that out?
Okay. Everybody understand Beth's concern? Well, you start on 238, section P, and her real question has to do with who pays. It's not all the other blanks or checks that you fill out, but who pays for the title. What has been the practice here?
We always put like the owner pay $250 towards title.
So the standard of practice has been that the seller would pay $250 and the buyer would pay the rest. Okay? Do we want to keep that standard? Do we want to keep that standard? If you want to keep that standard, then how would you do that? I guess from lines 250 to kind of the end of the page or a little short of that. If you want to keep that, how are you going to do it? So Beth, we're talking about maybe line 250, lender's title insurance premium.
Well, you've got two of them. They're split up. They're split up as owner's title and lender's title.
Gotcha.
If you share both of those equally, your seller's going to end up paying a whole lot more than they used to pay.
Okay.
And you're not going to know, like if somebody sends me a purchase agreement, I'm not going to know unless I contact a title company, well, exactly how much
it is.
gonna be.
Okay. So, Barb?
Okay, on the title policy, this alt policy owner, that's the one that requires a survey. We want the standard title policy.
Barb says, if you go back to line 239, it's asking for ALTA, ALTA owner's title policy, and that requires a survey. We typically don't do a survey. Okay?
Standard policy.
And what is that?
So you might want to write in there, strike through alt and put standard would get you to where you didn't have, your seller or buyer didn't have to pay for a survey, which would be the standard of practice before. Does that make sense to everybody? I'm not telling you you have to do that, but you need to understand that if you leave it like it is, somebody might be paying for a survey. Both of them might be paying for part of a survey. But let's get back to Beth's question. Yeah, I think you have to mark one in that first.
Would if we waive the survey on the page before, does that negate that?
I don't know. I doubt it.
DJ, line 257 says pursuant to federal state law, seller cannot make selection of a title insurance provider, a condition of this agreement.
That's the provider.
I've been telling you how to split it out.
I know, I thought you said we needed to strike through Alta and put standard, and it says here they can't do that.
No, those are types. Those are not providers. Alta is not a provider. Alta is a type of insurance. Okay? So let's get back to Beth's question rather than getting off on these other things. And that's okay because they're good questions. So if we are used to the seller only paying a set amount, or we think it's easier to have the seller have a defined amount, whether it's $250 or $500 or whatever you choose with your seller, how would you do that on this?
Oh, now I'm seeing it. Write it not to exceed. I put other. I check other on the second line. On line 252, you could check other. Seller to pay whatever towards it, and then the other one you can have for the buyer. The one above that, owner's title to be the buyer.
Okay. Did you understand how Beth did that in her mind? So we're here. Our previous standard of practice is for the seller to have a $250 cost towards title insurance, whatever. Whether it was lenders, buyers, whatever. Right? Typical. So here's the way Beth made that work. Up on line 246, where it's talking about owner's title. In that paragraph, she checked buyer to pay. And then in the paragraph that starts on 250, under lenders, she checked other, and it wrote in there, in the blank, seller to pay $250, which was the limit she wanted. That would work if there was a lender involved. So that's kind of the way she's reasoned through keeping the cost allocated the same way that we typically have.
And that would be in addition to any closing costs that the seller agreed to pay?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't know that one.
But if the seller's paying closing costs, then you're just gonna check buyer included in all allowances
you could do
provided.
that for both of them.
So check that one.
Don't. Lori?
Can that just be addressed in the
Louder.
I'm sorry, can that be addressed in the method of payment on line, like 68, where you could add security towards title?
On line 58 on 68.
Could that be addressed there, where you're asking perhaps for closing costs?
Right, but then you check that.
And just check
the
buyer
buyer
for
for
life.
both of those, what was included in that.
Because, I mean, if the buyer doesn't get lender's title, then how can you write seller to pay $250?
You could. Okay. You could. That's a good alternative. So Lori comes up with this alternative, and this would work in either case, whether you had a lender or not, is if you went back on page 67, where it's talking about buyer shall pay all closing costs of obtained financing except, you could write in there, seller to pay $250 towards title insurance. Okay? And then when you get back to the title insurance page, you would check buyer. Okay? Two solutions to the same problem.
Cash deal though. What about cash?
Same thing.
Well, it's not in that paragraph for cash. It's in a different paragraph. Because there's no financing, so.
So why not just come
I see.
off or less?
Right, so you gotta do it on the other page.
Yes. So I think if it were cash, what I would do, and this is off the top of my head, and not doing these very often, I would go back to line 248, where it's talking about owner's title insurance premium, and back behind where it says shared equally, I would create another box, and I would write in there, seller to pay $250. Or in my further conditions, I would write it in. So there are a lot of different options on how to do this, but that's just one thing to be aware of. That's all we're trying to point out is things that are a little bit different today than they were a month ago. Okay, who had our third topic? 113, 114. Thank you, Robin. And this has to do with possession. And what is your question?
I think that's really confusing for people, and I just wanted to talk about it.
Okay, so if I start on 110, does that help? Yeah. The possession of the property shall be delivered to the buyer at closing or within X days beginning the day after closing by AM, PM, noon, or on blah, blah, blah. Okay? Is that part clear? Yeah. Okay. For each day the seller is entitled to possession after closing, seller shall pay the buyer at closing.
No, it's not a holdover, there's no more free possession. The first one's rent, the second one's damages.
Now wait a minute. For each day the seller is entitled to possession after closing. Okay, go ahead.
If you put on there, they're getting possession 7 days after closing, and then we get to closing, and the seller says, I can't be out on the 7th day, I need 2 more days.
Okay.
And that says $50 a day, that at closing, the seller has to give
$100. Or 7 days, $350.
No, the next one's liquidated damage.
Next one,
Okay, so wait a minute. Rather than having one choice of liquidated damages, you now have two. One is something that I get to the closing and I tell you I'm not going to be out on the day I thought I was going to be out. Okay? That's the first blank, right? Okay.
One is rent and one is punitive.
That's fine. So
if you, no more free possession, so if I get possession 2 days from closing, the number I put in there is 2 times whatever that number is.
Okay.
I bring a check at closing.
Okay, so the way it's written, no more free possession. So wait a minute. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
How do you read it differently?
We agree to that, we don't agree on paying.
No. I'm not saying you agree to the practice. How many agree that sentence means no more free possession if you write a number in there? Yes. Everybody agree on that? Yes. Okay, so how do you get around that to what our old standard of practice was? 0. Put 0. Simple enough? Yes. Is that okay with everybody? Well, it is, but to make it the same as before, that's what you would do. And then the next line, liquidated damages, same as before, after so many days, and you stay over, here's what you owe. Robin, clear as mud? Okay. Next topic. Was it yours, Tammy?
Yeah. Line 64, 65, 66.
64, 5, and 6 about the new mortgage. And okay, so what are you?
What I've seen coming across my desk is some agents will put in like 3.5% if it's an FHA loan, or 10% if it's a insured conventional. And really, what you should be doing is the amount, the percentage of the mortgage, not the down payment.
So 96.5.
Oh, hold on, Patty.
If it's FHA, then the loan amount is 96.5, not 300.
Okay? You got it? You understand it's just a mathematical thing? It's not the down payment, it's the percent of the mortgage. Is that okay? That one easy? Is that it?
Just clarification on that piece.
Okay. Next topic. Who had it? Yes.
On, the inspection
Lines.
response period, 187.
What?
187.
187. Talking about inspection responses.
So that's saying that within so many days, you have to have a response to an inspection.
I think that's exactly what it's saying. So, what did your old purchase agreement say?
3 days within so many days.
Thank you, Beth.
Inspections within so many days, and then 3 days after to respond.
Okay. So it really had this number of days broken down into 2 parts, right? All they've done is combine those 2 parts and say, give me one time where it's all going to be done and you're going to have responded by. Is that easier? Yeah, I think it is.
So if we want to do 10 days, we just put 13 days in there? Yes.
Questions about that? Rather than put inspections to be done within the first 5 days and a response within the next 3 days, what they would say, if that was your time frame on this purchase agreement, you'd say inspection request or response within 8 days, which is just a total of those 2. Amanda?
I think you need to be real careful too on the inspector that you use, because some of them don't give their reports the same day or even the day after. So just make sure that they are giving them to you as soon as possible, because that could delay your time and then get you out of your time frame.
What's a good way to deal with that? Jane says ask them up front. Is